Alright, so this is another Photoshop tutorial for you guys. I've been asked lately why I stopped making them, and honestly, I have had time, tons of school, all that good stuff. Plus, I just haven't had any topics and someone ever sent me any. But I figured out, why not just do this after I had a little complication doing it myself. Now, this is what I'll be teaching you today, is mainly this little guy right here. Now, there's a lot of tutorials on buttons, but most of them do, well, not complicated things, but overly complicated. Yeah, they're overly complicated in my opinion. The Web 2.0 age is rushing in, and you need simple things that stand out and usually don't take so much space and just are bright colors and catch your eyes. Simple design is the best, but anyway. Forget the background, that's not the focus. The focus is this little guy. So I'm gonna open up a new Photoshop window. 256 by 256. You can do whatever you want, but you need to keep in mind you gotta have a good workspace. I'm gonna go to my selection, rounded rectangle tool. I got radius set to 25. Gives me a good, rounded off corners. Let's say I want the button to be about like that. So I'm going to drag that anywhere I need to. Make a selection. Right click, new layer, and call it base like I did my other one. And I'm going to fill it with white. Deselect with Control D. And we're just going to go into the layer options. And bring this over here. The layer style, my bad. First thing we want to do is add a color overlay, and I'll use the same color template as the other one because my favorite color is blue, and those light blues really catch your eye. So go to the color picker palette, that's what I call it. I think it was 5BBDDD. Easy one to remember. Set that to about 75, 79. Go to your gradient, and this is more or less your opinion. You can tweak it around a lot. Set this to 110, 110, 100. That makes a rounded surface a lot more rendered looking. I'm going to set that to about 95. Go to pattern overlay. And I've pre-made this one. It's just large diagonal lines. You don't have to overlay the button. I did in the other one, but sometimes if you want to have a background effect, just to match your background, do about 50%. Can't really see that. Let's go 80, 100. That works. And again, you don't have to have it. That looks fine, but I'm going to add it to mine because I really like those diagonal lines. So the last bit would be, the other one had a drop shadow. So we'll go up to drop shadow, and I usually save this for when I got all my background chosen, so it's easier to tell, but oh well. Go to angle 1, distance 1, and this is about 2 or 3. I mean, you don't need that much room. I'm going to do 3. And set the blend mode to normal. Enter in your code 5BBDDD. And set it to a nice dark contrast shadow. And you're almost done. Lastly, I'll select it by control selecting the thumbnail. Get rid of my work area just by hitting tab. And I'm using the rounded rectangle tool again and holding Alt. You don't have to hold Alt. I do, just so I get this, proportioned area or proportioned selection. And I'm gonna kind of even this up. Doesn't have to be perfect. Actually, we'll move it up a little bit more. That works. So now hit make selection, and it will give you this selection. Go to your marquee tool, feather. I'm going to feather about 2 pixels only. go to your gradient tool, which is default G or Shift G if it's got, you know, the paint bucket selected, the fill tool, and make sure you have white selected. Reset your palette by hitting D, as I've stated in earlier tutorials. Have the gradient layer blend mode foreground to transparent, and just kind of make a good glimmer on top. That'll work. Actually, that works pretty well. If you want, you can take out an eraser with a nice soft brush at 27 work, opacity about 40 or so, and do that. But I like the kind of encapsulated look, so that's good for me. And click your base layer and text, which is the last bit. Let's just say this one would be a about button. And I'm using the Myriad Apple font because I just think it looks good. It's good with bold settings. I tweaked it a little bit, but anyway. Alright, we're going to go into the settings for it. Yes, there are settings. And we're going to do about the same. We're going to turn off global light, like the other one. 90% angle. Or 90 degrees, not 90%. What am I thinking? And about 2 works. Set the opacity to about 60, 65. And if you want, which just isn't really needed, I can just select this color, go to these dark tones over here, and it makes it blend in a lot better. You can actually bump it back up to 70, 75 doing this. And go to your blending options, turn the fill opacity down to about 90, which makes it blend a tad, but it also makes it stand out because you want that contrast there to make it noticed. And you're basically done. There's your basic Web 2.0 button, is I like to call them. And a way to really tell if it looks good is to make it set on the background that you want. Usually it would just be a not so interesting background in Web 2.0 because the whole point is to have sharp features. The background usually in Web 2.0, I said, it's not boring, but it's not like filled with pretty effects so your eyes are distracted from what really matters, and that's the content. So I grouped all of my button little options there by selecting them all and hitting Control G or Command G in a Mac, and I'm going to name it button, and go down the background, double click to open up the new layer window, but it's not really a new layer, it's just activating the background layer for use. It unlocks it and everything. And go into here, color overlay, do the same color overlay as the button, 5BB DDD, 5BB DDD. Set it to about 75 like the other one. Gradient overlay, make this about a 110. That should work. Pattern overlay, and this is where we really need to use this guy. Ooh, something's wrong. There we go. Yeah, 50%. 60. Again, this is all tweaking, which is how you learn in Photoshop, is playing around. So you go into your button, you look around, and you'll notice with the background that you got your little highlight actually outside the bubble, which happens when you feather. It expands the field as well as shrinking it. So you're just going to go in to your button group and Control or Command click the thumbnail to bring up the selection for the object. Control or Command Shift S, which will select the inverse. You can also right click with the marquee tool. Select your highlight layer, which is layer 1 in this instance, and just hit clear or delete, and that fixes that. And if you wanted, you can also tweak other minor things such as drop shadow. It looks kind of odd color in my opinion. Just coloring, and probably select something like that one, or we'll go over here, not so dark, a little darker. You know, it's all tweaking. That'll work. Set the opacity to about 70, and you're basically done. Now you are. So the whole essence of Web 2.0 is simple. And the reason I did this tutorial, no matter how simple it is because I'm planning on doing a lot of Web 2.0 or just web template in particular design tutorials in the future that teaches a lot of the concepts, how to do it, what you need, and what you need to think of to make it more acceptable to the mass audience. And I'll get more into that into later tutorials, but for now, that's it. And as always, if you have any suggestions, please send them to my email at ghostinterface@gmail.com. It should be displayed on the screen. If it's not, it'll be at the end of the video. And thanks for watching, and see you next time.